I never expected to see a billionaire cry until my mom's kindness changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a brisk morning in October, the air electric with promise, yet filled with a biting chill. I stood outside the lavish glass doors of the penthouse, heart racing, palms clammy. Just a week ago, news broke that the reclusive billionaire, Jason Voss, was set to unveil his latest venture, a revolutionary wellness center. Everyone was buzzing, intrigued by the man behind the curtain, but there I was, a nobody with a fractured heart and a mending family. The weight of my mother's illness hung like a storm cloud over me. I could still hear her laughter echoing softly in the back of my mind, a distant sound wrapped in warm memories. I pushed away the thought, feeling the lump in my throat tighten. My mom had devoted herself to helping others, always the first to lend an ear or a hand. I was proud of that. Yet I felt crushed under the weight of her suffering, and then there was the moment that changed everything. I walked into the event hall, an overwhelming sea of wealthy faces and polished smiles. As I navigated through the crowd, whispers circled like vultures. "Did you hear about the charity gala? Is it true?" He finally spoke. Each comment felt like a jolt, and my trembling hands gripped my small purse tighter. It was then that I saw him, Jason Voss. Standing tall, his sharp suit tailored to perfection, yet shadows loomed beneath his eyes. An awkward silence settled as he took the stage, awkwardly clearing his throat. My breath caught when the truth hit me. He looked so lost. Behind the bravado, I could see a flicker of vulnerability that nobody else seemed to notice. He blinked back something that shimmered in the light. Was that a tear? The atmosphere shifted as he began to speak, his voice wavering with unexpected emotion. "I've faced many obstacles in my life." His words echoed, striking chords deep within me. But then something broke. An audience member shouted a question, a sharp edge cutting through the vulnerable moment. Panic rippled across his features. I thought for a second he might crumble right there, on that grand stage. And that's when the fragments of my mother's lessons jolted back. Kindness can silence fears. Driven by an impulse I didn't understand, I found myself moving forward, heart pounding, weaving through, eyes wide in disbelief. I approached the microphone. Somehow, the words spilled out like a life raft. "Mr. Voss, it's okay to feel lost sometimes. Kindness can change everything." Gasps surged through the crowd like a wave crashing onto the shore. Jason's eyes met mine, and in that moment, under the weight of collective judgment, I saw his resolve break even further. An unguarded moment, raw and pure, where the billion-dollar empire and emotional collapse fused. I held my breath, stomach tightening, waiting for his reaction. Yet, he swallowed hard, and just as I thought he might say something profound, the lights flickered. An eerie, ominous silence enveloped the room as the screen in the back flashed an urgent warning, something about a hidden past, unspoken connections, shattered illusions. My heart raced. What had I just unearthed? Was there more to Jason Voss than money and power? A sinister mist seemed to settle around us, tension thick in the air. I turned back to look at him, but the strong man who had held the stage so surely moments ago had vanished. I hadn't just lost a moment. I may have stumbled upon a secret that could change everything. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As I stood there, frozen in disbelief, the atmosphere became suffocating. The audience's chatter morphed into a cacophony of whispers. Speculation spiraled, connecting dots that hadn't yet been drawn. I could feel every eye in the room obscurely dissecting not just Jason, but me, the nobody who dared to step into a moment that seemed to spiral out of control. My heart thumped loudly in my chest, desperate for clarity, for some kind of guidance as I searched Jason's face for an explanation, and then I saw it, deep in his eyes, a flicker of recognition, but layered with confusion and unguarded fear. It was a reflection of my own turmoil, a mirror to the heartbreak I felt for my mother. I wanted to tell him to scream that it's okay to crack open the facade if it meant healing. My lips parted, but nothing emerged. The room seemed to maintain a collective breath, a pause suspended in time as the lights flickered once more, dissipating any sense of normalcy we clung to. Just then, Janie, my mother's best friend, broke through the whispers, stepping forward. "Let's not jump to conclusions, people." Her voice rang out with an unexpected authority, clashing against the tension. "We're here for hope, aren't we? Let's focus on why we came tonight." The warmth of her words ignited a flicker of courage in me. I took a step closer, hoping to channel that warmth directly to Jason. He stood like a statue, a man molded by years of expectations and disappointments, yet in this moment, a longing for solace unfurled within him. As if sensing my attempt to reach through, he met my gaze, and it felt as if the world outside our little bubble faded away. I ventured, "Jason, we're all navigating something. Maybe sharing it could help." Before he could respond, a booming noise echoed from the back of the Hala, distraction too loud to ignore. I turned, the sound reverberating through my body. It was the projection screen, now displaying blurred images, flashing faces and locations that set a panicked energy in motion. Murmurs crescendoed into concern, voices rising. "What's happening? Is this part of the event?" Jason, still rigid, looked towards the projection, his expression shifting from confusion to something more profound. Fear? Guilt? "Not again," he muttered under his breath, hands balling into fists by his sides. With my heart racing, I realized I had to protect him. I had become a part of something much larger than I ever intended, a tangled web of heartache and unspoken pasts. I leaned toward him, urgency breaking free. "You don't have to face this alone. Please." The exhibition of emotions around us began to bubble over. Some began to leave, dragging with them whispers of betrayal or curiosity. Like children drawn to a fairy tale gone wrong, others lingered closer, as if sensing the awakening recognition of an unexpected bond that was taking root between us. But just then, a figure stepped forward from the dim light at the back, clad in a tailored trench coat. Their face obscured, but their presence strikingly imposing. A hush fell, as if this newcomer carried the weight of hidden truths. "Jason Voss," the figure spoke, the timbre chilling as it cut through the air. "It's time you answered for your past." My breath hitched. This couldn't be happening. I felt the tension of countless unresolved threads swirling between us. What had Jason been hiding? What loomed over him like a dark cloud? Before Jason could respond, his composure slipped further, and I could see in those eyes the glints of anguish reflected back like ripple effects of a shattered mirror. A visceral need to understand overcame me. Jason was no longer just the billionaire caught in a moment of raw vulnerability. He was a man clutching the pieces of his soul as a specter from his past emerged, threatening to unravel everything. Caught between my own fears for my mother and the urge to protect Jason from whatever this threat was, I felt myself teeter on the precipice of emotional chaos. "Jason," I shouted, my voice unsteady but anchoring in the storm of our interlocking fates. "Tell me the truth. Let me help." "You." The moment hung, heavy with unspoken revelations, and Jason's eyes darted back to mine, flickering like the lights above us. A single tear slipped down his cheek, a silent admission echoing between us. The unfathomable darkness of his past was clawing at his soul, and I feared I was standing on the edge of something I was not prepared for. As the figure drew closer, the destiny we shared loomed dark and foreboding, and I couldn't help but wonder, could kindness truly pave the way through this abyss? Or was I simply navigating a labyrinth where compassion might not be enough to keep us both whole? The tension in the air crackled like electricity, a palpable force that matched the wild beating of my heart. I could barely process the realities unfolding before me. The figure in the trench coat continued to advance, compelling Jason backward into a corner of vulnerability while I stood helplessly between them, an unwilling mediator in a drama larger than my understanding. "Do you really think you can run away from this?" The specter taunted, voice low and menacing. "You've left enough wreckage in your wake, Jason. It's time to face what you've done." Did I end that moment? The audience's curiosity morphed into a different beast, whispers morphing into fearful gasps, others edging closer, unable to tear their eyes away. I swallowed hard. My throat felt tight, as if the echoes of the past were wrapping around me as well. Who was this person? What had Jason done that now threatened to consume him? "Stop!" I shouted, instinct overwhelming my instincts to retreat. My voice trembled, carrying the softest germ of bravery. "You don't get to do this here. Whatever it is, you have to allow him the chance to explain." The figure smirked, seeming amused by my interference. "You think you can shield him with your naive sentimentality? You really don't know who you're dealing with, do you?" Jason's eyes darted toward me, suddenly filled with an aching vulnerability. "No, don't," he started, his voice a mere whisper. I recognized that look, the one that wrestled between trusting a person or the fear that came from buried secrets. In a fragile moment, the room held its breath, caught between uncertainty and hope. The darkness of Jason's truth loomed before me, yet I felt the tender echoes of my mother's unwavering kindness, the countless moments where she chose compassion over judgment. It was what had brought us all here, wasn't it? Before I could say anything more, the audience began to shift. A couple of attendees whispered to each other, their ranged curiosity turned to gossip. I caught a glimpse of Janie on the periphery, her intense gaze darting around like a hawk assessing potential threats, searching for a way to restore hope. Then, among the shifting sea of faces, an older woman rose from her seat. Her silver hair shone under the dim, trembling lights, and the strength in her eyes was fierce and clear. "Enough," she called out, her voice steady and commanding. "Everyone deserves a chance to speak their truth, even if it risks further discomfort. Let Jason tell us what he can here." A small ember of courage ignited within me, amplified by her unexpected championing. I nodded tentatively at Jason, urging him to take that leap, to claim his voice instead of letting this figure's venomous words spiral into a distorted narrative. But as he opened his mouth, the figure shot back with disdain. What good will his words do when the truth is already buried beneath the lies? Jason knows well the consequences of silence. My heartbeat thudded painfully against the tension surrounding us, but in that moment, I found a semblance of my own voice. "We all have our shadows, but you don't get to take away his chance to change his story." I spoke, and the room seemed to sway uneasily, some faces filled with disbelief, others with a glimmer of hope. Jason finally broke free from the grip of fear and shame. "What I did was wrong, and I can't erase it, but I'm not that person anymore. And I wasn't alone." His words emerged with surprising strength, threading through the air like newly woven fabric repairing what had been wounded. I felt the spark of vulnerability turn towards healing, sparking hesitance within the figure, even as anger brewed beneath their cool facade. But before anything could further unfold, the older woman, the one who had stood for Jason, stepped forward. "Then tell us. What changed?" "We're here to listen." That prompted a deafening silence, the heavy weight of anticipation crashing down. Jason's gaze locked onto mine, and I felt the warmth of his resolve wrapping around every corner of my heart. Against all odds, we had kindled a moment of understanding and power, but just as he began to gather his thoughts, the figure raised a gloved hand, cutting through the tension like a blade. "You think you can walk away from your past unscathed? There are people you've hurt, and they'll come for you." Fear threaded itself through my chest as the implications settled in like treachery. What if they had been right all along? Was I merely a fleeting moment in this storm? What weight lay ahead in this emotional tempest we faced? With a final glance of resolve, Jason said, "I'll take that risk if it means I can finally make amends." But before I could process the gravity of his words, the figure sighed with dark satisfaction, stepping away and melting back into the crowd. "Remember this moment, Jason. They will find you, and then it won't just be on you to fix things." As he faded into the throng, a chill rattled through me. I could feel the shadows surrounding us both, their unfathomable depths waiting to consume. And I was left in a daze, caught in the intertwining of his past and my hope, uncertainty weaving into the fabric of our shared future, leaving me wondering if we were destined to drown in his darkness, or if we could indeed light a small flicker of hope for redemption. The murmurs of the crowd, once alive with curiosity and anticipation, now sank into a chilling silence, leaving an unsettling void. I found myself numb, wanting to reach out to Jason but feeling the weight of doubt press down on my heart. The tension from that figure lingered like an unwanted guest, one whose warning clawed at the fringes of my mind. Did he really mean it? I felt my lips whisper, barely aware of the words escaping. "People are coming for you?" Jason turned to face me, his expression an intricate tapestry of regret and strength. "I don't know who they are, but I can't keep running. Not anymore." His voice trembled with a raw vulnerability that sent ripples through me. A knot formed in my throat. Running where?
To what?
I fought to maintain eye contact, seeking reassurance that we could still navigate through this tempest together. "You said you're not that person anymore." He took a deep breath, those familiar shadows of yesteryear flickering in his gaze. I thought I could bury everything, but what I uncovered here, it's like digging up a part of me that must be acknowledged. I need to stand up, not just for myself, but for those I've hurt. Janie approached, her brow furrowed with concern as she broke the immense tension that enveloped us. "We need to regroup. Avoid the crowd." "We can't," but before she could finish, a sudden presence surged into our midst, a tumultuous figure emerging from the shadows. It was an exhalation of chaos, and my heart plunged as I recognized the gaunt, pinched features of someone from Jason's pasta woman with bright, wild hair and a glint of determination that could cut through steel. "Surprise, Jason. Did you really think you could ignore me forever?" Her voice was a cocktail of bravado laced with unresolved pain, piercing the fragile sphere of our moment. "Anya." Jason's tone slipped, tinged with fear. The vulnerability I had just seen moments before slipped behind a mask of turbulent emotion. "What are you doing here?" I could see the connection, the shared history cloaked in reckless choices, stitched with an urgency that held the promise of chaos. Jason's body language closed in on itself. The intensity of his past bore down like a heavy blanket, threatening to suffocate any budding light between us. "What do you think?" "I came for the show. To remind you that you can't just walk away from this. Not while I'm still carrying the weight of what you did." Anya advanced a step, eyes glittering fiercely. The crowd, once treated to a spectacle of shared hope, now morphed into spectators of a different kind, theater-goers on the edge of a brutal revelation. The murmurs returned, sharper and more anxious, as whispers flared around Enuo she was, what connection she had. The past they shared, all of it edged with a profound tension. "Anya, please, not here," Jason implored, but she wasn't finished. "You played the victim for too long, Jason. But you're not the only one who suffered," she spat, directing the vehemence at him and at everyone for standing by. "You don't get to have your redemption without confronting the havoc left in your wake." "No one does." The room crackled with discomfort. I felt the pull between wanting to defend Jason and knowing that Anya spoke of truths I had yet to fully comprehend. "You can talk about your pain and still forgive," I attempted, but a knot of anger surfaced in Jason's jaw, and I halted, unsure of the role I played in this. Jason shook his head, heartbreak washing over his features. "Anya, I never wanted any of this. I didn't mean to hurt you. But if I don't confront this, how can I even think about making amends with anyone?" A flash of anguish crossed Anya's face, and I could see the cracks in her armor. "You say that, but you don't know the damage your silence has done. You left me to deal with the fallout alone." I end that fragile moment. The empathy I felt for Anya collided with my desire to protect Jason from the inexorable weight of his past. My heart ached as Jason seemed to shrink under her words, transformed by the truth laid bare before us. Then, unexpectedly, a hand touched my shoulder. I turned to find the silver-haired woman from before, standing resolutely, her presence commanding yet empathetic. "You need to give each other the chance to express yourselves without fear." Pain cannot be healed until it is acknowledged. Eyes aflame with pain and resolve, Anya turned to me. You're so eager to champion him. But you don't know what he's carried. What was stolen from me? I want to understand, I replied, caught between the desire for compassion and the instinctive need to defend a man I had come to care deeply for. But fighting won't bring clarity. The room hushed as if the very walls agreed, the air thick with the anticipation of unspoken truths. Jason caught my gaze, a flicker of hope igniting amidst the chaos. Tell me what you need to say, Anya. I want to listen. But before she could speak, before we could all move toward reconciliation, our moment was abruptly shattered. Crashing footsteps thundered through the once contemplative atmosphere. My heart raced as I turned toward the entrance of the venue, and the door swung open dramatically. A group of figures strode in, faces familiar and menacing, their eyes scanning the crowd until they landed harshly on Jason Seach, a remnant of the past he had tried so hard to escape. Looks like we found you after all, one of the figures called, voice echoing ominously in the charged air. I felt the icy grip of trepidation clutch my heart as Jason's face drained of color. The abyss of uncertainty widened, and suddenly, the stakes became impossibly high. Would he stand firm against the tide of his past, or was this the moment where everything he had fought for slipped away like sand through his fingers? The tension in the room escalated, shifting from a personal confrontation to an all-consuming storm as the new arrivals scanned the crowd, their intentions palpable, dark shadows crawling across Jason's face. I could feel the heaviness of his regret radiating off him, a weight he had fought so hard to escape, but now it felt inseparable from who he was as these figures invaded our fragile sanctuary. Are you seriously going to pretend your past isn't coming for you? The man at the forefront, tall and foreboding, crossed his arms with an air of possessiveness. You think you can run away from what you owe? You're living a lie, Jason. We need to talk. Anya shifted, her eyes narrowing as she calculated her next move, torn between empathy for Jason and the urgency to speak her truth. This man, this figure of his past, somehow intensified the torment growing between them, and I felt my breath hitch in my throat as the room echoed with collective gasps of recognition. Stay away from him. I stepped forward, adrenaline spiking. If there's something you want to say, then say it without threats. The man smirked, clearly unamused by my interference. You've gotten into deeper waters than you realize, haven't you? Jason's choices left ripples that have caused so much more than you know. You'd do well to step aside, Jordan. Enough, Anya interrupted, her voice a tremor of authority rare amidst her anguish. He has every right to speak, but it's his actions we need to address, not this charade of control you want to run. The crowd remained quiet, grappling with the gravity of the confrontation unraveling before us. Slowly, murmurs began to rise, curious whispers cascading through the air like an unsettling wind, as people struggled to understand the intertwining threads of our fates. Don't you see? Jordan pressed. You're all playing into the game, thinking he's some misunderstood hero. You don't know what's coming. This is about accountability, about the mess he left behind. Jason, visibly shaken, clenched his fists at his sides, his previous resolve dimming under the weight of those accusations. I know I need to face what I've done, but I can't do it with threats hanging over my head. A flash of determination ignited within me. I turned back to him, seeking whatever flicker of hope had been extinguished. You're not alone, Jason. We will face it together. But as I spoke, doubt crept in. What would together mean if he couldn't even confront the expressions of his pain? The sentiment lingered, shard-like, stabbing at my belief that love could conquer all hurdles. Suddenly, another figure emerged from the shadows, this one a woman dressed in understated elegance, her posture commanding but gentle. It's time, Jason, she said, stepping forward, her voice clearing out the chaos that swirled. You need to understand they don't define who you are now. You have the power to reshape your narrative, Mom? Jason's voice cracked, disbelief weaving through his words. What are you doing here? The room fell into a tense silence again, the air thick with unbidden emotions. The sharp edges of this revelation splintered through my heart. I knew he had a complicated relationship with her, but to see her here, at this moment with the storm before us, was an unexpected turn. I couldn't stand by anymore. "You'll always be my son, no matter what choices you've made," she said, stepping closer to him. "You don't have to face this alone. Your past cannot hold you if you don't let it define your future." For a moment, I saw a flicker of something break through the walls Jason had built, nightmares and chaos clashing against the fragile promise of acceptance. But even as the smallest threads of hope unraveled, a new depth of fear emerged, contorting my stomach like a vice. Jordan scoffed, shaking his head. "You think that's enough? Mom's words won't erase the past. He has debts to settle, and if he doesn't, we'll be back. Sooner than you think." His voice dripped with chilling finality. Jason's eyes darted around us, the weight of despair anchoring him down. I could see the realization hitting him like a freight train. He could only run in circles, sprinting between the shadows of his past and the new light fighting to break through. Suddenly, Anya laid a hand on his shoulder, a surprising gesture of solidarity that shocked the room into stillness. "If you're ready, then let's find a way to put this to bed. Together," she whispered, the pain echoing in her undertone mingling with a flicker of hope. But before the moment could solidify, a chilling reality seeped in further as the crowd buzzed in rising panic. A woman in the back of the room, with familiar long hair and an equally troubled face, raised her hand, shocking us all into silence. "I'm not sure you know this yet, Jason, but she's not the only one looking for you." We all my heart sank, a newfound anxiety clawing at my insides. I glanced at Jason, who seemed to become both lost and grounded in this revelation, the revelation that countless others were entwined in his past and that they might soon come barreling into our lives, forcing the reckoning he couldn't escape. As the implications of this new truth settled in, I realized hope was as fragile as glass, hovering in the midst of an approaching storm. Would this shared history tear everything apart? Would love be enough to hold us together when the battlefield of his past finally came to claim what it desired? The uncertainty hung poignantly, leaving us teetering at the precipice of a devastating revelation. The air in the room felt electric, crackling with a mix of tension and unresolved emotions as the full weight of the woman's declaration crashed upon us. Jason's expression flickered, a myriad of emotions crossing his face: fear, regret, confusion, and a desperate need for clarity as he turned to the figure who had just upended his fragile world. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice hardly above a whisper, the depth of apprehension swallowing his words. "I am Marianne," she replied, inching closer, determination mingling with vulnerability etched in her features. "I had to come. You didn't only leave people behind, Jason. You left questions. I was one of the ones searching for you, for so long, thinking you had vanished forever and wondering why." Her admission made the room seem to shrink, the weight of prior transgressions pressing harder against every soul present. It felt as if every person now held a piece of Jason's past, poised to pounce on the truth he feared to confront. I could see Anya stepping back, her earlier resolve flickering as the reality of the encroaching crowd inched closer. We were all entwined in a story bigger than ourselves. "I made mistakes," Jason began, his voice shaking. "I tried to protect you all from what I had become." "You don't understand, then help us understand, Jason," Marianne cried, her voice breaking into sobs that echoed throughout the silence. "You deserve to be free, but you have to let us in. Please." The reminder that Jason had a life before us, a life filled with people who depended on him, tightened the knot of anxiety in my chest. Part of me wanted to shield him, to wrench him away from the emotional storm he had created within himself. Another part craved to understand just how deep his scars ran, what inner demons haunted him in the quietest hours of his life. "I didn't want to hurt you," he replied, desperation underscoring his resolve. "I thought pushing everyone away meant I could obliterate the past. But it doesn't work that way, does it? No matter how far a swath of quiet engulfed us, all eyes trained on Jason, the tension palpable as he wrestled with the admission that loomed larger than any single mistake. As if sensing his inner turmoil, his mother stepped forward again, cradling his face in her hands, her eyes shining with the comfort only they could share. You don't have to navigate this long-buried pain alone anymore. We're all here for you. With her words hanging in the charged air, I wondered if that declaration could counterbalance the weight of Jordan's threats. Hope flickered uncertainly, casting shadows rather than illuminating the path forward, but a sudden rustle at the entrance of the room captured everyone's attention. A man with a confident stride, sharply dressed, strolled in as if he owned the place. Recognition jolted through me, a sinking feeling that brought the very breath from my lungs. Jason's estranged father, Marcus. Marianne recoiled as she noticed him, her face pale and stricken with fear, and I caught Jason's eyes widen in dread. This was not just another voice from the past. This was a man whose influence might unravel the very fabric of the fragile bonds Jason was working to mend. Gathering everyone I see, Marcus said, a smirk grazing his lips. Who knew my son would grow into such a popular man? His gaze danced around the room, taking stock of the crowd before fixing back on Jason. What do you want? Jason demanded, all traces of vulnerability now shielded under a layer of defiance. I heard you were in trouble, son, Marcus replied, the mockery underlying his words forcing my blood to boil. Thought I'd come by to see if you're ready to be a part of the family again. We have loose ends to tie up. The crowd visibly shifted, tension rising like a trapped animal, and it was almost palpable as fear splintered across Jason's features. I watched him falter, caught between the family legacy he despised and the love we desperately tried to build. Don't listen to him, Jason, Anya shouted, her voice quaking with emotion. You have the power to choose your family now, but I could see doubt clawing at him, and I wished I could step in and offer him the strength he needed. Instead, I stood there, paralyzed by the reality swiftly unraveling. Marcus had returned, bringing with him an entire storm that dwarfed every concern we had previously faced. Jason's gaze shifted to me, his possible lifeline, and as he sought the reassurance of my presence, I felt as if we were both balancing on a thread, one that could snap at any moment. The chaos unfurling before us threatened to pull him back into the abyss, deeper than anyone could comprehend. Choose wisely, Marcus taunted, a predator toying with its prey. There's more at stake than just your future, son. You know what I did to those who defied me. I grasped Jason's hand tightly, sensing the tremor in his hold as he fought against the flood of memories battling within. Would he step forward into the darkness with his father, or choose this fragile light we had kindled around him? As he searched my eyes for answers I didn't have, I knew that whatever came next could potentially shatter us all. But before Jason could respond, I felt an unexpected surge of warmth wash over me from the crowd. A murmur of support began rising. Some hesitated, some stepped up. The confrontation loomed ahead, but amidst the chaos, one glint of kindness shone through as a stranger whispered, "We believe in you, Jason. You don't have to do this alone." Before I could process that flicker of hope, the door swung wide, and a chilling new force entered the fray, the very air vibrating with tension as a voice I recognized all too well echoed in the room. "Don't listen to him, Jason. There's something you still don't know." My heart raced once more, the shifting landscape around us blossoming into a fully fledged war of the past and present intertwining in ways none of us could foresee. Would he surrender to the chaos or rise tall against it? Where would love and the weight of history lead him next? The room held its breath, the air thickening with anticipation. As the unfamiliar voice cut through the tension, my mind raced to identify its source. Emerging from the shadows, Lila stepped forward, her normally vibrant features shadowed by a mix of worry and regret. It was as if she carried the weight of our collective anxieties on her shoulders, and a pang of nostalgia gripped me. Lila had always been the one who knew how to communicate the unspeakable, but this time her emotional burden felt heavier. "Lila?" Jason breathed, confusion twisting his features as he caught sight of her. "Please," she urged, taking another step forward, her eyes darting urgently from Jason to Marcus. "You need to trust me. What I'm about to say could change everything." Her voice trembled, each syllable dripping with importance. "What could you possibly know that we don't?" Marcus sneered, stepping out from behind Jason as if to physically block any light from reaching him. Enough. Jason shouted, the fire of anger flaring within him temporarily eclipsed by something deeper fear. Just say what you need to say, Lila. A collective hush enveloped the room as Lila steadied herself against a surge of emotion. She glanced at me, then back at Jason, the memories of our shared past gnawing at her resolve. You all remember when we found those journals in the attic, those belonging to your mother, right? A somber ripple flowed through the crowd as people exchanged silent glances. I could almost hear the gears of their memories turning, but a veil of confusion still hung over Jason's face. What do journals have to do with this? Your mother wrote down everything, Lila continued, her voice softer now, conjuring images of the cherished afternoons we had spent poring over those pages. Her struggles, her love for you, and secrets. Important secrets that could explain why Marcus is the way he is. Secrets? Marianne murmured, her eyes still glued to Jason. What do you mean? Lila drew in a shaky breath, pieces of her own painful past surfacing as she spoke. Your mother feared Marcus didn't just hurt people. She feared he was capable of worse. She wrote about his plans, about how he used his wealth and influence to silence anyone who stood in his way. That includes those who loved you both. A gasp went through the gathered throng. I could see mixed expressions on faces I knew well, echoing the inner conflict of disbelief and anxiety. The secrets Jason had long buried were clawing at the surface, threatening to break free. His entire life was being challenged. A barrier he'd erected against this invasive truth weakened inch by inch. Jason's hand tightened around mine, sweat coating his palm. Why didn't you tell me earlier? The words slipped out, filled with an unbearable mixture of yearning and betrayal. Why wait until now? Lila's cheeks flushed with sorrow. Because I thought you needed to build a new life first. To believe in something different. But my failure to be there, I'm sorry, Jason. As silence fell upon us yet again, the warmth I thought was gone dimmed further, choked by the weight of Lila's admission. She wasn't just revealing knowledge, she was exposing her own guilt, her own haunted memories. Could bringing this to light free Jason, or would it drown him under a tsunami of bitterness? The moment elongated, hesitation filling the spaces around us. Just when it seemed like we'd reached a breaking point, I sensed the small flicker of hope Lila's words had ignited, timid yet persistent. Even if it's true, even if your past is tangled with darkness, Jason, I said gently, searching his eyes, trying to weave that flicker into something tangible. You have a choice now. You can decide who you want to become, who you want to stand with. Marcus chortled, stepping closer, his smug demeanor revealing an inkling of doubt. Seems to me, he remains a pawn all because of her meddling. No, Jason asserted, turning to face his father fully, the tremor of fear subsiding into fiercely burning resilience. Am not your pawn. Am not bound to any legacy of yours. The energy in the room plummeted, flickering like a light struggling against a storm. Jason faced an uncharted future he had never dared to explore, and fear twisted the very essence of his humanity. Everyone has a choice, Lila reiterated, her previously wavering tone strengthening as she turned to Jason. Know this, we all believe you can break free. You can create the kind of family you always wanted if you choose it, if you fight for it. Yet, as he took in the support surrounding him, a shadow crossed his gaze, uncertainty swirling in the depths of his eyes. Before any of us could grasp the full significance of his turmoil, Marcus stepped forward yet again, leaning ever so slightly into Jason's personal space. Fight for it? Is that what you think, son? He taunted. You really don't know what's at stake. You're not just fighting for yourself anymore. There are lives tied to your every decision, and I will not let you selfishly abandon us again. We have business to settle, and business includes keeping family. You can't erase your past. You can't erase me. Panic flared within Jason as the weight of his father's threat settled over him like a thick fog. Just when it felt like hope might reignite, Marcus struck with a cold promise. The choice you make will affect everyone you've tried to shield from the truth. Enough. Jason's voice cracked, a thin veneer of control shattering under the pressure. I refuse to let you control my life. Just stop. The moment hung on the precipice between clarity and chaos, and I realized this wasn't just about Jason anymore. It was a tumultuous crossroad for all of us. Would he protect what we had forged together, or would he submit to the looming shadow of legacy and fear? Suddenly, the door burst open again this time, the ominous presence of the local journalist who had been following the speculation of Marcus' dealings entered. "I think you all need to hear this," she announced, eyeing Marcus with a knowing glare. "It seems your past is about to go public." Gasps erupted from the crowd, and Jason's eyes bore into mine, teetering on a knife's edge. Whatever revelations came next could weave together the very fabric of emotions we had struggled to stitch back together or tear it apart entirely. What would unfold as the truth we had all kept hidden surfaced? The air crackled with tension, the journalist's arrival shoving us roughly back into the storm between fear and anticipation. The promise of exposure hung over us like a guillotine, and for a fleeting instant, I thought of all the plans we had nurtured, the fragile threads of hope we had woven together. Now those very threads seemed ready to snap, leaving us dangling over a chasm of uncertainty. Public? What do you mean public? Marcus' facade of control began to crumble as the journalist moved closer, her eyes like twin searchlights cutting through the darkness. "There's been talk of your family's past," she stated plainly, offering no room for denial. "Letters, testimonies, even more journals. It's all about to come out, and with your mother's connection to the community, it could change everything." Jason's face paled as she spoke. He turned to me, and I saw the dawning realization wash over him. His mother's legacy was not just her love, but also the shadows she had sought to erase. "I can't," he murmured, seemingly lost in a vortex he was struggling to navigate, as if he were losing control of the very narrative he had tried to rewrite. The journalist continued, her voice now softer as she stepped into Jason's heart-stricken reality. "Sometimes the truth is what ignites change. It's what brings healing." Marcus, however, was not about to let Nathan slip into the light of liberation. His eyes narrowed. "You think that's helpful? You think bringing our family's issues to the forefront will get him to where he needs to be? You don't understand what that could do." "I understand much more than you," she replied, unwavering. "I understand that frequently the people standing in the shadows are the ones who fight the hardest for the light. And those who present as pillars often have the darkest secrets." Silence fell, heavy and pregnant with implications. A fire ignited in Jason's eyes, one that challenged his father's shadow and yet trembled under the weight of years of oppression. The battle was no longer just between father and son. It had become a battle of identities, destinies grappling with long-buried truths. Amidst this shifting landscape, Lila reached out to Jason, touching his forearm gently. Her act of kindness gave him an anchor in this storm. "Whatever happens, we're here with you," she urged, her voice thick with emotion. "You're not alone in this fight." I watched Jason absorb our solidarity. The tumult within him stirred into something resembling courage. "I won't be a pawn, but I won't hide either. It has to come out." The determination in his voice felt like a fragile flame, flickering yet fierce. Marcus shook his head, a smirk curving his lips, masking the wavering edge of desperation. "You think you can face the world with this truth? It won't just be you standing there. It'll be everyone you touch, everyone you love. You think your mother's kindness will protect you when they come for her legacy? When they come to feed on the weaknesses of our family? Then let them come," Jason roared, the fire now roaring so brightly that it lit the faces of everyone around him. "Let them hear the truth. I won't let your definition of family shackle me any longer." The tension in the room lifted momentarily, swept away by his outburst, until it collided with another pressing reality. The journalist's unexpected kindness meant a tumultuous battle against the past, one waged in public and behind closed doors. The fight for the truth had just begun, and yet it had the power to shatter not just the lives we were trying to build, but also the very essence of our identities. I turned to gauge Lila's reaction. The look on her face solidified my fears. She appeared torn, grappling with the enormity of it all, her gentle heart warring with the haunting memories of a truth she had fought so hard not to reveal. In this swirl of feelings, the anguish of long-held secrets, the boldness of broken pasts fighting for light, and the tenderness that had become our saving grace, I realized this collective journey was heavy with contradictions. The journalist, sensing the shifting mood, took a step back. I suggest you all brace yourselves, because the stories that come out will hold more weight than you anticipate. It's not just your mother's truths that will surface. Others will inevitably chime in, and it will be a collision of love, loss, and tragedy. Jason turned to me, raw vulnerability painting his features with a tender brush. If my past comes out, will you stay with me? Will you face whatever comes, knowing how dark my family story truly is? Before I could articulate a response, something caught my eye from the corner of the room. I glanced back to see Marianne, her expression wide with shock. Then, without a word, she bolted for the door, her face ashen and filled with a confusion that pulled at my chest. "Marianne," I called out, suddenly consumed with a dreadful feeling. But she didn't stop, and I realized she wasn't just fleeing. She was escaping the truth she couldn't face instead of bolstering the unity we had created. She represented the fracture that could splinter us all apart. With a sudden loud crash, a window shattered, and the tumult of emotion reflected back at me in terrifying clarity: the battles we faced together, the choices we had to make, and the fact that every revelation could either tear us apart or bind us closer together. And yet, as Jason stared into the collision of fears and possibilities, I couldn't shake the sinking feeling that this chaos was just the beginning. The room felt like a pressure cooker, the air thick with unresolved emotions, every gaze weighted with unspoken fears. Jason stood at the center, his pulse racing with the adrenaline of defiance and vulnerability, yet it was overshadowed by the sudden surge of chaos created by Marianne's flight. As the glass crumbled to the floor, its sound echoed like a death knell for our fragile unity. Who was that?" the journalist stammered, taken aback by the sudden turn of events. Her probing nature seemed momentarily forgotten, consumed by worry and confusion as she instinctively leaned toward the door, as though to follow Marianne into the storm brewing outside. "This isn't a game," Marcus hissed, the anger in his voice barely veiling his terror. The strength of his tyrannical hold over his family seemed to waver, feeding the growing tension that coiled tightly around each of us. Jason's eyes flared with anger, and chaos swept through the room, everyone grasping for a shred of certainty in the overwhelming tempest. "I'm done with games. I'm ready to confront this, ready to face whatever it is we've been hiding," he declared, but the determination was now tinged with uncertainty, the courage threatened by the crisis unfolding. "Jason, no." Lila grabbed his arm, imploring him to consider the depth of their family secrets, the response of the larger world. "You can't just dive into this head first. We don't know the full story. What if it might just be worth the risk," he cut in, anguish wrestling fiercely with hope in his eyes. "If I don't take the leap now, I'll always live in fear of it crashing down on me later. My mother has faced so much, and so have we. Keep running from the truth." Just then, a harried silhouette appeared in the hallway, breaths ragged and spattered with trepidation. It was Marcel, eyebrows knitting together in concern. "I was listening outside. What's happening in here?" He scanned the room, the tumult embedded in his spirit reflected in his wide, worried gaze. "We have to find Marianne," I interjected, urgency slicing through my heart. "She ran out. She's scared of the truth she knows." "Scared?" Marcel scoffed, frustration simmering. "What truth is better left in the shadows? Isn't the whole idea to unearth this past? Not just for you, Jason, but for everyone." At his words, I felt my heart race, the gravity of our interconnected stories pressing down with mounting intensity. Perhaps Marcel's harsh rebuke carried an element of truth. Our fears were entwined. Marianne was not a mere bystander in this unfolding tale. She was a vital thread woven deep into the fabric of our collective past. "No," Lila whispered, her voice suddenly breaking through the thickening tension with a note of despair. "Let's not use that language. If we confront the shadows, we cannot afford to force them into the light before we're ready to embrace what they bring," she pleaded, eyes glistening with unshed tears. This needs to be a choice, a consensual stepping into the light. As we stood there, poised on the brink of chaos, an unexpected warmth filled the room. A moment of clarity. It dawned on me that Jason was right, that the truth would eventually come out. But Lila's reminder echoed in my mind. We had to navigate it together. Our fears danced dangerously close to overwhelming us, but threads of kindness were there, binding us like protective armor against the encroaching storm. Let's split up, I suggested, a surge of determination feeding my voice despite the tremor underneath. Marcus, you stay here. Lila, Marcel, and I will find Marianne. Jason, my voice faltered as I searched for the right words. You find the courage to prepare for what comes next. Prepare? Jason retorted, exasperation flaring briefly in his expression. That's not how this works. You either face it or run from it. A thought struck, sending shivers down my spine. If we were battling against the shadows of our past, what if those shadows had plans of their own? What if, unbeknownst to us, the fallout from Marianne's secrets would spiral beyond our control, unraveling ties we thought were resilient? As we moved towards the door, each of us step engulfed in the brewing storm of dread and resolve, an unexpected sound drifted through the open window, a soft melody, floating on the wind like a thread through time. Wait, I called out, urgency imbued with wonder. Do you hear that? The harrowing notes wove themselves through the chaos, soothing yet caustic, echoing with memories of innocence and hope. It was familiar but amorphous, reminding me of whispered promises from our youth. It's from the park, Lila murmured, eyes widening. It's heard. And that very instant, I felt the cold grip of dread thaw slightly, realizing that Marianne was not just fleeing in panic. She was grasping for something deeper, the unwavering tendrils of our shared past that could pull her back. But as my heart lifted, propelled by that haunting melody, something caught my attention near the shattered window, the journalist's notepad, now lying limp on the floor. It had opened up to a page filled with hastily scribbled notes, revealing something unexpected, a fragment of a story, a name I recognized, intertwined with ours. Suddenly, pieces of the puzzle began to shift, the revelation tangling the sadness and fragility tightly around USA, name that could connect each of our stories more intricately than we had yet imagined. And in that moment, standing at the threshold of understanding, my stomach twisted with apprehension. What would this discovery mean for our collective journey, especially for Jason? Before I could call out, a manicured finger reached down, gripping the notepad tightly. It was the journalist, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock as she locked eyes with me. I hope you know what you're getting into, she murmured, her voice low and ominous. Things are about to get wild. With the gate of truth swinging wide open, I felt the barbed edges of revelation encroach closer, wrapping around us like a noose. I recently thought that history was a chain, an unbreakable link binding us to our past. But standing there, with Jason and the echoes of wanderlust threading through our chaotic reality, I felt the shift, and understanding washed over me. History wasn't a chain but a tangle of roots, like the intertwining branches of an ancient tree. It could bind us, but it could also give us strength if we dug deep enough. In that fleeting moment of clarity, the haunting melody drifted through the air, calling to me with its familiar warmth, while the journalist's words echoed ominously. Things are about to get wild. She was right. With the past demanding its due and shadows looming over the future, we were on the verge of something unimaginable, something that could either sever the fragile ties we'd forged or braid us together in ways we couldn't yet grasp. Someone needs to talk to her, to explain. We have to find Marianne, I urged, recognizing that our time to confront the painful truths was slipping through our fingers like sand. Jason seemed poised for a confrontation with the darkest corners of his life, but his eyes mirrored my doubt. Would he be ready to embrace the truth when it found him? And yet, there was also a flicker of resolve sparking in the depths of his soul, barely perceptible, but there. "It'll come with you," he said, taking a hesitant step forward, his hand brushing against mine like a gentle reminder that we weren't alone. Not in this storm. With Lila and Marcel, we darted through the hall, hearts pounding, the haunting melody still thrumming in our heads like a familiar heartbeat. Outside, the wind whipped along the streets, carrying Mariana's voice aloft, swirling with the shadows of our history, echoing off walls that had too often contained our fears. We reached the park, the moon illuminating the space where memories of laughter lingered like fragrant ghosts. It stood as testimony to countless moments shared, filled with joy and the promise of endless possibilities. But now, it felt desolate, memories trapped beneath the weight of fear and longing. "Mary," I called, searching the surrounding trees, weaving through brush and shadows until my eyes landed on her silhouette at the far end, the soft strains of her melody heavy with sorrow. The sight sent a pang through my heart. She had been my sister, my anchor amid the tumult of our youth, but she too was carrying burdens we could hardly fathom. She turned at my voice, her expression shifting from the depths of her melancholy into something tempestuous, raw, and alive. Why would you follow me?" she whispered, her vulnerability hanging in the air like an unspoken invitation. "You can't fix this. You can't bear my burden, Mary, and we don't want to fix you," I said, the warmth of connection comforting. "We want to support you. Please, let us be here with you." As tears welled in her eyes, she choked on a sob, the melody faltering before it broke apart with the weight of her breaking heart. "You don't understand what's coming. I didn't want this to touch you. We can handle the truth, whatever it looks like. We can handle it together," I insisted, feeling Jason's presence at my side, a solid pillar behind me. "You're not alone in this. We won't abandon you." A flicker of hope ignited in her gaze, but it was shadowed by fear. "They already know. The past it's been waiting, and the stories will come spilling out. They'll hurt everyone, including you." I shook my head, infusing my voice with conviction. "What hurts is the silence, the secrets that have been weighing us down forever. But together, we can find a way to weave the light back into our lives, to narrate this truth on our own terms." Marian faltered, glancing back toward the path, the ache of painful memories holding her captive. "It's not that simple. The moment they learn about that, the moment they figure out the lies." But before she could finish, Lila stepped forward, the calm strength she emanated washing over us like a balm. "What if we didn't need to fight the past? What if we find a way that allows us to honor the truths we've kept locked? A way? It might hurt, but secrets can only fester in shadows. The moment they're shared, the power they hold diminishes." The air shifted once more, laden with possibility. I could see the conflict within Mariana's gaze. Should she let us in, or shut us out once again? She started, trembling, the fear spilling from her lips. "I know it's terrifying," Jason cut in, his voice surprising me with its depth of empathy. "But it's more terrifying to face battles alone. The fear hasn't made me weaker, it's made me stronger, because I learned to lean on others. We stand together or not at all. This is a collective fight." In a monumental shift, the fear in Marianne's eyes softened into something beautiful, the barrier she had built wavering like a candle flickering in a draft. "You're all willing to face this?" she asked, disbelief woven tightly with a thread of hope. "No more hiding," Lila confirmed, stepping close, her hand resting on Mariana's shoulder. "All we want is for you to join us to confront this storm as one." At that moment, a luminosity erupted within us, and forgiveness began threading its powerful route through the dark crevices we had all been hiding within. Mariana's breath hitched, as tears streamed down her face. A surrender we had long craved, but which could only blossom in the light of acceptance and love. "I can't promise it will be easy, but with you I want to try." The soft whisper suffused the night air with newfound energy, binding us together in that shared moment of vulnerability. The journey ahead would surge into chaos. The storm was unyielding, and the weight of truths yet to emerge clawed at the edges of our fragile, newfound openness. But we wouldn't be navigating it alone, and I felt the buoyancy of hope mingle with the certainty of love, weaving our strength together for what lay ahead. As we turned to head back, a new song floated through the cool night air, gentle yet buoyant, evolving from the painful past into the promise of Hilinga's song of redemption, of survival against reason, stitched together by our collective journey into the unknown. "Let's face this together," I whispered, my heart racing alongside Jason as we stepped forward into the fray that awaited together, embracing the beautiful intricacies of love and resilience. And at that moment, as fears began entwining with whispers of courage, embracing the uncertain light, I knew we would find our way through. Because truth, love, and kindness, they would always lead us home. In the depths of every heart, there exists a symphony waiting to be played.